Well, no one said we were going to go undefeated this year, but doesn't make losing to the Green Guys any easier on the road. But anyway, it's that time of the month again to recap. Welcome back to another My Calgary Stampeders This Month video where I just recap how the Calgary Stampeders did this past month. And now we're into August 2018. This is my third segment from the 2018 CFL season, as the Calgary Stampeders have recently concluded their August portion of the CFL schedule, but also tend to do recap videos like this for other Calgary sports teams, the Flames and Hitmen, when hockey season starts, and the Roughnecks when lacrosse season gets going. So yeah, hit like, subscribe if you enjoy my content here on my YouTube channel, where mostly I want to cover Calgary sports, but I also post up stuff for, let's say on my holidays, which I'm still in the process of uploading my other videos since I just got back from holidays. And I also just experimented doing a couple personal vlogs, which I felt this past month was the perfect time to put up a couple personal vlogs as things slow down in the summer. So you can take a look at my channel for all the content I have up there right now. But anyway, it's that time of the month again where I recap how the Calgary Stampeders did in the month of August in 2018. So coming into August, they were a perfect 6-0, 3 wins on the road, and 3 wins at home. And they were definitely chugging along here, but the strength of the schedule started playing a role in August here, as so far the consensus has been that the West Division has been a lot stronger than the East once again this season, and Calgary drew all West opponents coming up here in August, and it definitely showed here as when I recap how the team did going into August here. So the first game, which was week 8, they were playing the BC Lions in Calgary on Saturday, August the 4th. And I say that was the first big test that the Calgary Stampeders, including their defense, have faced, because the BC Lions, they look like a much better team, because they started the season with Jonathan Jennings at quarterback, but Travis Lulay, who actually has a winning record against all the CFL teams in his career, he was the starting quarterback, and he still looks like he could still do the job and show bits and flashes of himself, especially during the 2011 season where he won the most outstanding player and led the BC Lions to their Grey Cup victory on home field. But the Calgary Stampeders did manage to pull this one out late. It was you can call it a defensive struggle, because the Lions, I still say, have big playmakers and they have some key cogs on their defense, but the Calgary Stampeders did manage to win 27-18 against the BC Lions, which gave them I won't say a little bit of a scare here, but it definitely should prepare them for the month ahead, because I said strength of the schedule came into play. A couple numbers to highlight here is that in that game, Bo Levi Mitchell at that point had his best individual game of the season. He was 19-31 in passing. He threw for 370 yards and 1 touchdown. And then when I get into the injuries here, but Kamar Jordan has definitely stepped up and be the go-to receiver for the Calgary Stampeders. And in that game, he had 5 catches for 165 yards, which is pretty good for one game. But as we get later in the video, you'll be impressed by even more numbers that he has surpassed, and he's actually starting to be up there. If you go up north here to Edmonton, they got 2 dynamic receivers, and Darryl Walker and Daquille Williams, or they call him Duke Williams. They're both big time threats, and Kamar Jordan is starting to say, I'm up there with them. So yeah, so they went 7-0 after beating the BC Lions, and that was the first time that the Calgary Stampeders were 7-0 to start a season since 1995, so we're definitely approaching those historic numbers when Calgary had their heyday in the 90s as well. So in week 9 they had a bye, which is their second bye week of the season. Each team has 3 bye weeks. But then I noticed in the schedule there that that was a light week in the league because there was only 3 games, and there was a couple weeks where 3 teams get a bye. I mean, it's an unbalanced schedule where you're always going to have a team that's going to be on a bye when you have 4 games, but there was a couple games in the summer where 3 teams got a bye and there was only 3 games. But the one thing to note on week 9 is that Stampeders made a player movement as they released their third stringer quarterback, Larry Brent Jr., and then they signed another quarterback. His name was Montel Cortez, and all I know is that he's from Boise State, and he's an international from Kansas City, Missouri, and he's wearing number 12, so it's still too early to gauge on what he's like. Apparently Devon Claybrooks had insight on him, and the defensive coordinator for the Calgary Stampeders, that we should pick him up. And I mean, all I know is from Larry Brem Jr.'s in the first preseason game, he threw for 2 touchdowns, but that's preseason week 1. Some players had big games in the first week of preseason. They aren't in the league right now, so I mean, it's a totally different game. Well, we'll see how this pans out. I mean, heck, one time I saw a little clip that back in 2012, the Stampeders signed Levi Mitchell. I was thinking, that was an interesting name for a quarterback, and the rest is history, so you never know who we have in the making here. But now this leads us to week 10, and this is definitely maybe Calgary had a little bit of a slap in the face there, but the schedule had it Calgary going back to Saskatchewan for the second time in 3 weeks. I mean, Calgary, like the BC Lions, will play them 3 times in the regular season this season. BC will come to Calgary twice, but Calgary went to Saskatchewan twice this season. And they pretty much, if you look at the script on how the Calgary Stampeders beat the Saskatchewan Roughriders 3 weeks prior, you could pretty much reverse it and press Calgary and Saskatchewan in different spots, because the Saskatchewan Roughriders definitely came to play and gave Calgary their first loss of the season in 2018 with a 40-27 victory for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And definitely the first half definitely synced Calgary in with, well, when you throw a pick 6 and get a block punt that gets returned for a touchdown, I mean, that's definitely shifts the momentum to the Roughriders. And then Zach Collaros, who's back for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Originally they were signed as to be their starting quarterback, and he's actually showing signs of going back to his form in 2014 when he led the Hamilton Tiger Cats to the Grey Cup game, and in the first half of 2015 when he looked like he could have been the most outstanding player. So the Saskatchewan Roughriders definitely made the big plays when they needed to and had a few short fields. The other thing to mention is that Calgary was down by 18 at the half, and then Calgary had the ball first, and unfortunately they turned it over and gave Saskatchewan a short field, and they scored a touchdown. And you know, even in the CFL where leads can change rapidly and evaporate, Calgary was down by 25 at one point, and they got it within 10 points at one point in the fourth quarter, but it was just too much playing catch up. So, I mean, I guess you could say it was inevitable. We weren't going to be undefeated, but Saskatchewan definitely came out to play, and I definitely wasn't a happy camper when I was in McBride at the time watching that game on my holiday. But, you know, I didn't think they were going to go 18-0, but it's always tough to lose to the Saskatchewan Roughriders, any team that wears green. But this will definitely set up a rubber match in October for the season series, when the Saskatchewan Roughriders will make their only scheduled visit to Calgary in October. So we'll definitely be looking forward to that and seeing how the season develops. So anyway, the last game that the Calgary Stampeders had in August, week 11, was on Saturday, August the 25th, when the Winnipeg Blue Bombers came to town, and this, you can say, is another game that you can throw out the cliches, measuring stick, litmus test, because it looks like right now Calgary, Edmonton, and Winnipeg are the consensus top 3 teams in the league. They're all in the West. You can throw Ottawa in there. Right now they're first in the East, but they've been very inconsistent out there in the East. But Winnipeg definitely came out to play, especially in the first half. I mean, the one big play that they made was, it looked like it was a second short situation, and most of the time you line up just for a quarterback sneak. And I remember that Chris Streveler, he came back and threw a long pass to Langford, and he scored a touchdown early, and Winnipeg had an early 7-0 lead after the convert. And the first half definitely proved to be a defensive struggle, because Winnipeg, as a team, leads the league in sacks, and they have an aggressive defense, and that's how they found success early and got into Bo Levi Mitchell's kitchen a few times with a few sacks. But it wasn't all doom and gloom for the Calgary Stampeders, because after the first half, they definitely put away the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in the second half, and I'm going to throw out some spectacular numbers here shortly here. But first, the Calgary Stampeders won 39-26, where the Winnipeg Blue Bombers only scored 11 points in the second half, but 8 of those 11 points came in what they say during garbage time, in the last minute of the game, where you have your backups and prevent defense in. But our defense definitely stood up to the task in the second half and made some adjustments. But some spectacular numbers I'll throw out here is that Bo Levi Mitchell, he was 25 of 42 for passing for 452 yards and 3 touchdowns, and that's a new career high for Bo Levi Mitchell. And then right now in the CFL, they're doing this diversity of strength campaign, and they highlighted a couple great players in the past for the Calgary Stampeders and for every other franchise. And the 2 players that they highlighted was Herm Harrison and John Helton. And it's kind of interesting that Herm Harrison himself was at this game, because up until yesterday, he held the receiving record for most receiving yards in the game. But Kamar Jordan is now holds the record for most receiving yards a game, because he had 10 catches for 249 yards, including the 1 touchdown. And he definitely got that record on the last catch, where he scored the touchdown, the go-ahead touchdown, where both Bo Levi Mitchell surpassed 400 yards passing, and Kamar Jordan now is the all-time receiving leader in a game with 249 yards. Herm Harrison, they nicknamed him Ham Hams, or number 76 back. This is before my time, but he had 237 receiving yards in one game. But Kamar Jordan definitely surpassed that, and it's kind of fitting that that record stood for 40 years. And Herm Harrison himself was at the game. And then the other thing I guess you can note here is that Bo Levi Mitchell also is slowly climbing up actually the all-time passing yards, and he's 29th in the CFL now in all-time passing yards. But the guy that he passed in the process was current general manager John Hufnagel. So that's definitely another interesting tidbit right there. So anyway, the Calgary Stampeders in August won 2 games and lost 1, 2 of them at home and 1 on the road. So right now at the halfway point of the season, they're 8-1 and looking good right now, first in the West. But I'm one of those tentative fans that say, come ask me in November how Calgary's doing, especially the last week, because I mean, I've seen this movie before, not talking about the last couple seasons, but in the 90s we definitely looked like the cream of the crop, and then fortunately couldn't finish the job in November. So now let's break down into a couple key injuries that the Calgary Stampeders have endured. Well, good thing Kamar Jordan has picked up the slack in the receiving corps, and you could say Tavares Daniels has always steadily one of the top receivers for the Calgary Stampeders, because Eric Rogers, well, there was some concern about his knees coming in. He was recently put on their 6-game injury list because he had to clean up his knees, and that's where he injured his knees when he was trying out for the NFL San Francisco 49ers. So I think we definitely miss him now, but if he can heal up and get healthy for the playoffs and pick off right where he left off, it'd be nice to have him back for the playoffs. And then the other guy that has been on the 6-game injured list, who's very versatile, who hasn't played at all, is Quinn Smith, who's a defensive line, but he can also play defensive line. So those are the two big names that are on the 6-game injury list. I know Don Jackson also was he was hurt there for a month, but he actually came back and played in the Winnipeg game. And then Tunde Adeleke actually came back for the Saskatchewan game, but he had a nagging injury where he missed a month there. But it's nice to see them back, although I think they got banged up in the Winnipeg game. And then defensive coordinator Devon Claybrooks, they're still not too sure what's up with him, because last week I was on holidays. I still was following things online, and then Mark Steven, the play-by-play guy, the insider. I recommend you following him on Facebook. He definitely gives insight about everything about the team and how practice is. Well, apparently Devon Claybrooks, he said he wasn't feeling well, and they took him to the hospital. He was taken to the hospital for precaution for testing, and there's no update as I know as I'm recording this, or I found anything update about what ailed Devon Claybrooks, but he wasn't on the sidelines for yesterday's game against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. So those are my quick injury report. Now just to throw out some numbers here for the Calgary Stampeders. Bo Levi Mitchell, our quarterback, right now is throughout the season he's 181 for 281 in passing. He has 2,614 yards passing, which is good for number 4 in the league. And then he has 20 touchdown passes, which is good for second in the league. Only Mike Riley up the road up in Edmonton, he's the leads in passing and touchdown passes. And then our running back Don Jackson, he has 77 carries for 488 yards, which is still actually good for 5th in the league. Which is not bad considering he missed a month there. I mean, the top running backs have been Andrew Harris in Winnipeg and William Powell in Ottawa. They've definitely been the threats. And then up the road up in Edmonton again, C.J. Gable. He's definitely been a nice find for the Edmonton Eskimos since they picked him up at the trade deadline last year. And then our leading receiver, Kamar Jordan. Well, he had 2 monster games this month, but with 52 catches, he has 895 yards, and which is good enough for second in the league. So he's right between Darrell Walker at the top and Duke Williams at 3rd in yards, and he has 6 touchdown catches, which is tied for 3rd in the league. And then when I get into some defensive numbers here, Alex Singleton with 55 tackles is good for 4th in the league. And then Micah Johnson, he has 5 sacks, which is tied for 2nd in the league with a bunch of other guys. But Charleston Hughes, just in case if you're wondering, he is by far leading the league in sacks, and he has 12 of those. And I think I recall he had 4 of those against these guys. He definitely still knows them well from all the time he played in Saskatchewan, and I'll give him a little surf right there just to show him a little respect. And then Micah Johnson. Then for interceptions, both Brandon Smith and yesterday Jagger Davis, he had 2 interceptions, and that's tied for 5th for a bunch of guys. Yeah, I forgot to mention that Jagger Davis had a monster game against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers where he had 2 interceptions, including 1 pick six late in the game to really put it away. And then when it comes to forced fumbles, Michael Johnson's actually the best in the league with 3 of that, and then Alex Singleton has 2, tied for 5th. So those are just my quick numbers. I just went to the CFL app where I'm going to try to streamline the numbers, and they just show the top 10 of each category. Big category, offense, defense, special teams. I mean, they just show total yards, but Well, I think maybe I'll go over the special teams numbers at the end of the year. But this while we'll set up September. As in, September is definitely going to be a much busier month, and strength of schedule will still continue to play a role here. So week 12 is just the big Labor Day Classic, which will happen on Monday, September the 3rd at 1 p.m. at McMahon Stadium. That game is almost sold out. That's always the biggest regular season game week of the season, as it is for everybody with their Labor Day Classics. But I definitely always get pumped for that one. Calgary always shows it's also at the same time they show their appreciation for the military, so they all come out and expect a jumping atmosphere at McMahon if you go down for Labor Day. And I guess still say my first Labor Day Classic was 1995, where a guy named Jeff Garcia, took over that game and threw for 6 touchdowns and over 500 yards. And it's been tough to match that, but Labor Day always has a different special feeling in the air here. And then week 13, which I'll personally be going to that game myself, which is the Labor Day rematch, which thankfully I'm sure the players on both sides are fine with it. But over the years, the rematch used to happen on a Friday, but now since 2014 it's always been on Saturday, which also makes it easier for me to make the trip up. Which Calgary will be playing the Edmonton Eskimos again at the brick field at Commonwealth Stadium on Saturday, September 8th at 5 p.m., which, it's a late night going back, but I can, go up there, spend the day up in Edmonton, and be back in Calgary by 1, 2 in the morning, depending on traffic and if I stop and grab something. And then week 14, the Calgary Stampeders will be going to the Donut Box, or Tim Hortons Field in Hamilton, where on Saturday, September the 15th, they'll play an afternoon game at 2 p.m. and Hamilton, funny thing is Hamilton hasn't been as strong at home since they opened up Tim Hortons Field, but we'll see how that goes, depending on where both teams stand. And then week 15, Calgary will have their last and third bye week of the season. And then week 16, I'm definitely also looking forward to this game, as the Toronto Argonauts will be making their first visit to Calgary since the infamous Grey Cup. And also, Calgary destroyed the Toronto Argonauts in week 2, and it was an unfortunate incident that Ricky Ray suffered a concussion and was carted off the field. Apparently, word out is that he's out of his brace and he's still with the team, behind the scenes and that, which I still hope that, he could still play once he feels better, because it'd be a shame if that was the last play of his illustrious career. But still, for storylines, it'd be nice to get a little revenge on the Toronto Argonauts. That game will be Friday Night Football, Friday, September 28th at 7 p.m. So they'll definitely be looking forward to that one, as trying to get a small ounce of revenge on how things didn't go well the last 4 minutes, and fortunately it was on the wrong side of the Grey Cup. But anyway, that's my Calgary Stampeders this month for August 2018. So if you enjoy everything I put on my channel, make sure you hit like, subscribe, and once again, I'll see you in the next video. And my next time I'll be doing a recap is after when Calgary plays all their games in September, and I'll be back here next month with another my Calgary Stampeders this month. So I'll see you at the next video.